In this video, I'm going to walk you through the features of the free version of the Employee Scheduler plugin. I'll start out by showing you what it's like to use the plugin as an admin and what all you can do in the dashboard, and then I'll show you what it's like to use the plugin as an employee. So here I am in the dashboard of a website that has the Employee Scheduler plugin installed, and you can see that there's a settings page, and there are also extra pages for shifts, jobs, and expenses. If you want to create a schedule for your employees, the first step is to make sure that you have some employees. Employees are just WordPress users. So to create an employee, all you have to do is to create a WordPress user with the employee user role. So all you need to do is enter a name, email, and make sure that you select the employee user role. Once you have employees, you have the option of creating jobs. Not everyone needs to use this, but this is useful if you have several different jobs that you need your employees to be doing. So in this case, I've set up this website as if we're managing the schedule at a coffee shop. And we have several jobs that need to be done, including barista and working in the kitchen and the office and cleaning. When you create a job, you can create a job description so that you can make sure your employees know what they need to be doing with this job. Jobs are optional, but they are a handy way to communicate to your employees what they're supposed to be doing. So once you have jobs, you can create shifts. Let me add a new shift to show you what this is like. So let's say that this is an afternoon barista shift. And maybe today there's something special that needs to happen, like so you can put in extra instructions if you need to. That's entirely optional, but it is a useful thing to be able to do. There are several shift types. The defaults are extra, normal, and paid time off. Naturally, most of your shifts are going to be normal. Extra denotes a shift that was worked by the employee that is not on the schedule, and of course paid time off is if you want to track hours that your employees are getting paid for but are not working. And you can add as many other shift types as you want here. There are also several default shift statuses. Assigned means that the shift has been assigned to an employee. That's the default. Not approved has to do with extra shifts. I'll talk more about that in a moment. And so does pending approval. Unassigned means that the shift is scheduled, but there is no employee assigned to work the shift. And worked means that the shift has been worked. And when a shift is worked, it is automatically changed to this worked shift status. If you want, you have the option of creating shift locations. This is useful if you have, for instance, several different coffee shops and employees are moving between coffee shops. This is also useful if you have employees who work off-site. For instance, if you offer a cleaning service and your employees are going to offices or homes to do cleaning. Here's where you enter in all of the details about the shift. So let's say this shift is going to be worked on May 31st, and it's going to be from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. I do require the 24-hour time format just to make sure that there's no confusion between AM and PM. The actual time worked will be recorded when the employee clocks in and out, but sometimes you might need to change this, so you might get an email from your employee saying, "Oops, I forgot to clock out, can you change it to say that I clocked out at 5? Or maybe they weren't able to get to their computer or something. So these will be automatically recorded, but you have the ability to change them if you need to. There's also an option to record location. This is useful if if your employees are working remotely, so again, if you have a cleaning service and your employees are working in a particular office, you have the option to turn on geolocation. So if your employee, for instance, uses their phone to clock in and out, this will record where they are when they clock in and out so that you know whether they're actually working where they're supposed to be working. You have the option to send an email to an employee when you create or update a shift. So this is useful if you're creating the schedule and you want your employees to know when they've been scheduled to work. You can send them an email automatically when you create the shift. There's also a field for notes that will only be seen by site admins. Employees have the ability to leave notes on shifts. This is where they could leave notes such as, oops, I forgot to clock out. Can you say that I clocked out at 5? Or, sorry, I had to work extra long because something came up. Any notes that your employees leave on the shift will be recorded here. Finally, you can use these two boxes to connect this shift to employees and to jobs. So, if Cameron is going to work this shift and Cameron is supposed to be doing the barista job, here's where we enter that information in. You can, by definition, each shift can only have one employee. So if you have 3 employees who are working the same schedule, you will need to create 3 separate shifts for them. So now that I've entered in all of the information, I can click Publish, and now we've saved that shift. Another feature that you have in the dashboard is expenses. Employees can report their expenses, and I'll show you in a moment how they do that. But once employee expenses have been reported, you can see them here. Employees can enter in a description of their expense and the date and the amount. There are expense categories for receipt and for mileage. So receipt is obviously when they're purchasing items, and mileage would be if they're getting reimbursed for driving their own vehicle. And the receipt and mileage categories are both calculated differently on the reports that are available in the Pro version of the plugin. There are also, of course, you can add more expense categories if you need. There's also one default expense status, and that is reimbursed, so you can use this to keep track of when you have reimbursed your employees. Expenses are connected to users so that you know whose expense this was, and you can also connect it to a job if you need to. Finally, I can walk you through the settings for the plugin. Your employees can receive several notifications from you as you're using the plugin, especially those notifications about when a shift has been created. So you can customize who that notification comes from and what the subject is. You have options to receive notifications about what your employees are doing. So if an employee changes the status of a shift or leaves a note on a shift, or even you can receive notifications every time an employee clocks out, and you can customize where those emails go to. As I mentioned before, employees have the ability to report extra shifts. This is work that they did outside of their scheduled time. If you want, those shifts can just automatically show up on the schedule, or you might want to require admin approval for extra shifts, in which case you would receive an email letting you know that an employee has submitted an extra shift, and then you have the option to approve it or not. Here's the option for whether you want to turn on geolocation or not, and on the schedule you can choose which day of the week is the beginning of the week. So that's a basic introduction to what happens in the dashboard when you're using Employee Scheduler. Now let me show you what all employees are able to do on the front end of the site. So now I'm viewing the website as an employee. Here is the master schedule view. this displays the schedule by week, and on the settings page we said that the week begins on Monday. So for each employee we see what shifts they have scheduled every day. Next to each shift you can click View Shift Details. Here it's popping up to ask if I want to share my location because I have geolocation turned on. Because I am logged in as Cameron Quinn and because this shift is scheduled for today, there is a clock in button here. This clock in button only shows up on the day that the shift is scheduled and only to the employee who is scheduled to work the shift. So if another employee is viewing this shift, they would not see a clock in button. And if Cameron Quinn was viewing this shift yesterday, Cameron would not see a clock in button. Here we have the details about the shift, the job, when it's scheduled to be worked. And here's where Cameron could leave a note if, again, I forgot to clock out or I had to stay extra long. Once you click the clock in button, it tells you you've clocked in, and then there's a clock out button available, and if we clock out, you'll see that the shift status has been changed to worked. Back to the master schedule. The master schedule shows everybody's schedule, and if you don't want everyone's schedule to be displayed, there is also a shortcode for your schedule, and this will show the employee, the logged in employee, their own shifts. There's also a nice shortcut. This is the Today shortcode. So if your employees, this is especially useful for employees who are viewing the site on a mobile device. This just shows you what shifts you're scheduled to work today. There's also an extra work report form. This is in case employees need to report work that they did outside of their scheduled shifts. So I've already worked my shift for the day, but now I need to go home and do an extra 2 hours worth of work, and I can't clock in and clock out because I don't have a scheduled shift. So I can enter in the date and when I start and stop and what job I'm doing and any description that I want to enter in. And then, as you saw, admins have an option to either just automatically accept this extra work or to have to approve it before it goes on to an employee's schedule. Here is the record expense form, so if I need to report that today I drove 20 miles in my job as an office admin, here's where I would do that. There's also a profile form where I can enter in my contact information and edit my user account. So that's an overview of everything that you can do with the free version of Employee Scheduler.